Good evening, everyone. This is the Ask Dr. Renee show. Thank you so much for tuning in. Tonight, we'll be here once again, motivating and inspiring you to live the life you deserve. Remember, I always say life is not a dress rehearsal, and you only got one life, so you might as well live it. And what is preventing you from living the life that you want right now? Don't wait. Do it right now. Live out loud. So if this is your first time tuning in, we've had several guests that have told us their amazing stories. We've had Paul Carrick Brunson, the modern day Hitch. We've had Cupid of the Cupid Shuffle and Curobics. Felicia Butterfield Jones of Ween. Last week we had Kristen Roshan of Divas and Dorks with her very amazing and inspiring story. Mario Armstrong from the Today Show and HLN and CNN, just to name a few. But tonight we are very honored to have the new author, Arian Simone. And thank you for coming to the show, Arian.
Oh, thank you so much for having me, Dr. Renee. It's a pleasure to be here and in great company, amongst all those other wonderful people you just mentioned.
Thank you. So first of all, Arian is a Detroiter, and as you all recall, last week Kristen was a Detroiter too, so I don't know if this is Detroit month or what. But I love to support my Detroiters. So, and actually, I just met Kristen this summer, and Arian and I are just officially meeting tonight, so this is great. So
we connected via the web for years.
Right, exactly. Just never met face to face, and I'm sure we might have been the same places sometimes too. But this is great, and I've always, she's done some amazing things that you'll hear about tonight, and I've always supported them by retweeting and sharing and stuff, and I will continue to do that. So I hope that you all will will be a part of the Arian Simone fan club as well. So can you just tell us what it was like for you growing up in Detroit? What were your aspirations as a child?
Oh my gosh, growing up in Detroit in the 80s and the 90s, I had so many aspirations, and I saw people that looked like me that were successful. Detroit, Michigan at that time was 86% African American. And with that being said, I was always surrounded by these African American entrepreneurs, political figures, and just so many different moguls and successful people, and even entertainers. My father's an entertainment attorney. So I had high goals then, like I have high goals now. And what I loved about it was just being in the presence of a lot of history and a lot of legends. So for me, growing up in Detroit, like I said, in the 80s and the 90s, I didn't know specifically what I wanted to do. And it's just like the famous quote when she's like, I didn't know, what I wanted to do in specific, but I knew the type of woman I wanted to be. I knew I wanted to be a businesswoman very young. And I knew I wanted to own my own. I knew I wanted entrepreneurship. I knew all of that as a child. So as a child, I didn't do the typical lemonade stand, but I would always get in the front of the lawn. Whether I was selling bowls or selling anything, I was selling something. My best friend's mom always tells a story about in middle school how I was selling poinsettias to the mothers during the holiday season to raise for some cause. And I was always fundraising. I was always winning the NAACP awards and UNCF awards and all types of fundraising awards. So I knew at that age that I definitely wanted to make a difference in the world. I definitely wanted my voice to matter. I definitely believed in having a platform for the greater good. And I always had high goals. So I didn't know in specific. I was, voted most popular out of my high school class. So I was always very sociable. I always loved talking to people. And even to this day, I'm into others' perspectives on life. So for me growing up in Detroit, I had goals and I knew that I'd be successful. What I'd be successful at, I wasn't sure.
So Arian went to Cass Technical High School, which many people know as the wonderful school that produced such famous people as Diana Ross. Who else? They had David Allen Greer.
Even Big Sean in current day.
Oh yes, Big Sean. Excuse us. Let's bring it into the current day. Yeah. Exactly. Big Sean is also a cast technician. So at that school, I know that you guys had to choose a curriculum. So your curriculum was business then?
Yeah. My curriculum was business. So I majored technically in business for high school, undergrad, and grad school. I have my MBA. And I did know, like, I had a boutique when I was in college, and that's one thing I did know I wanted, though. And I knew it wasn't just limited to a store. I had like a drawing probably when I was 10, because back then I loved to shop. You know, now I have to get in the mood to shop, but back then I just loved to shop. So I had like a whole sketch of this whole mall I like drew up just for me to own. I was like, here it is, this is mine, that type of thing. And I just randomly, honestly acted upon it when I was in college. But yeah, I majored, or my curriculum was business in high school, and they allowed us to work half the day for a semester, go to school for the other half too.
Well, that's, you know, wonderful practice, and I hope more schools are still doing stuff like that, because children need exposure. Exposure. And I know you believe in that too. You expose them to a lot of different things, they can figure out exactly what they want to do and be successful at it, hopefully. So how did you decide about FAMU? Because, you know, you were all the way in Michigan, you go all the way to Florida, and guess what I just found, everybody? Her family are all Spartans. So how did you break away and end up down there?
I ended up at FAMU. I had a first cousin there, first and foremost.
Okay.
So I was definitely aware of the institution. I was exposed to a lot of their accomplishments. And in 1997, Times Magazine, Princeton Review, all these different ratings had the School of Business and Industry at Florida A&M University as the #1 business school. And Harvard at the time was ranked #2 in all these mainstream publications. So in 1997, the school had like all these raving reviews. There was a recruiter by the name of O'Hara Hanna that would come up to Cass Tech, also recruit the students. By the time of my junior, it must have been the end of my junior year. I can't remember when I got awarded this Coca-Cola scholarship, where they picked 20 students in high school from around the country. And so this is before like the social media age. This is before the blog era. So when I got selected as one of 20 from a very competitive scholarship, everybody's eyes were kind of like on me from an academic perspective. And my counselor told me that. They said, if you win this scholarship, you're going to get so many other opportunities and doors. Harvard offered me a full ride. I was getting full ride offers everywhere. And so my father was kind of disturbed when I even chose FAMU, because they didn't offer me a full ride. And he was just like, oh, you for real right now? I still have a resume to this day. It's in my house and my keepsakes that he made me write out. He said, if you're choosing this, then you're going to choose an Ivy League for grad school. And I had to put down Harvard. It was where I was going to go for grad school, because I had to explain this whole situation to him so it made sense to him in his mind. I never went because FAMU turned around or had a 5-year MBA program. And me not wanting to really go for 4 and then 6, and though in the big scheme of things it's only just 1 year, I was like, oh, my daddy doesn't know I'm getting out of here. Like I'm not doing that. But I still have that resume to this day where he made me write out that. I was like, oh no. But I applied to plenty of schools, got accepted everywhere. But when I visited FAM, what won me over was the culture of the people. And my mother wanted me to go to a historically Black college and university. She really wanted that. She didn't have that experience, but she said, Arian, the care, the love, and the concern that you're going to receive, she said, I want you to have something different than what I had. And I visited there. And then she took me and my friends, honestly, on a tour. We hopped in a car. We drove all around the country and stopped at schools. And it got between Howard and FAM. And Howard was offering me money for another program. I think it was like engineering or something. And I was like, okay, if it's going to be down between these two and I have to pay for both, I'm going to go to where I think that I'll have the best experience as far as, and a new experience. Howard, you know, gives you the big city feel just like Detroit. And everything just felt so homely at FAM. I was like, I'm going. And FAMU is the largest of the HBCUs in population, but everything just felt so warm. And I have no regrets. I'm very grateful. And our FAMU network is real. And what I mean by that is we have so many success stories that come from a rattler that looked out for another rattler. And it has truly been a blessing to know that I have come out of that experience with those resources.
Yes, I know. Sonia Jackson Miles was on the show.
Oh, I love her. And you know, that just, she's an example of the network. And what I mean by that is, if we've met in person before, I can't recall. I honestly can't. But when I tell you, I can pick up the phone and call that woman of any day for any resource that I need, and she will help me out. And she is sincere about it, and she is genuine, like always. I've done the same for her. She'd be like, okay, sis, I need your help on this. And she is wonderful. She is wonderful. And all we have to do is say is FAMU, and we're there for each other. So I love that. That I do love.
So you went and you did grad school directly after undergrad?
Yeah, it's a 5-year MBA program. So
okay.
I was in grad classes actually after 2.5 years. And that was just me just rushing through school. If I could look back at it, I would have took more time. Because so often when I'm sitting around my colleagues, they're like, oh, do you remember this? Or do you remember that? And I'm like, where was I? And I'm like, you were just rushing through school, and you really should have been just taking time to really absorb a little bit more of this education that you were actually having to pay for. But yeah, I was in grad school after 2.5 years, because I was done with the program in 4.5 years. So yeah.
So smart and yeah, very ambitious. So how did you start the clothing boutique? Because I found that fascinating years ago when I read about you. I was like, now, how did she do this?
Honestly, I'm probably more impressed by me now than I was then. And me even being a spiritual being lately, that has been just me being just rather transparent, just a prayer of mine, like, Lord, restore my childlike faith. Because so much happens as you just go on in life to where your faith can get a little tainted. And that's why I just love the scripture where it talks about it. You only need a mustard seed, because it's true. You just only need a little bit. You can go far with it. But I had this amazing no ceiling mentality. And I'm telling you, like I said, I'm more amazed looking back at me. I wasn't in awe then. I didn't think that I was doing anything super great or super spectacular. I was just following my heart, and I was just moving on that. I went to go pay my utilities one day, and I saw a sign that said business licenses. And it's in the city of Tallahassee. And I went and asked them, I said, well, what's that? And by my sophomore year, I was a licensed state realtor in the state of Florida. But I was just like, what's that? And they were like, oh, it's for people who own business. I said, well, I want a business. And they're like, what business do you want? And I said, a clothing store. And my crazy behind paid for the license, called one of my girlfriends, come over to my apartment, drew up a business plan. I'm like, we're going to do this. I'm getting a store. And that was just my attitude about it. I look back at me now, and even one of my line sisters, she said that was a big thing, back then, for you to be in college owning a store. But for me, I was just doing what I wanted to do, I guess you could say. And looking back now, it's a big thing. But there was a day when the 19-year-old and 20-year-old, I would say to me that wasn't a big thing. We have gotten as a society, I don't know if it's a good thing or a bad thing, to where we'll say like college kids. They're not college kids, these are grown folks. And when I look at my sorority, and these were founded in 1913 by women who were college students, and they had a global mindset at 1920. And I don't know where we took that away from them. And what I mean by that, I look at back even the entertainment industry, like Jermaine Dupri was like 19, with the hit Criss Cross and coming out with Axe and whatnot. And you look at the Berry Gordy's and Smokey Robinsons, these were kids too, or what we're calling kids. These were 19, 20-year-olds. Because in the early years of the 20th century, the 15-year-old was done with school. They were going on to be a wife and have children, and they were experiencing more adult-like responsibilities. So me looking back at me now, I'm like, oh my gosh, that was a big to-do. But the maturity of a 21-year-old was a little bit more advanced back then too. And it wasn't that long ago. But yeah, I don't take any credit away, of course, from what I was doing. But for me, in that moment and the maturity that I grew up in, I didn't see it as a big thing. I was just more so acting upon what I thought was like my first big whatever.
Well, that is it. Well, I mean, and so you said you want a business, you got a business license. So where'd the clothes come from? The money to get the clothes? Like
the process. Okay, so the process. I went back and forth to the magic shows. Went to LA. Went to New York. Did all the buying things. Now, how did I learn about those? I honestly don't.
This is before the internet was too extensive.
Yeah, you're right. So I'm like, how did I know? I was a shopaholic back then. And I probably asked around. I was familiar with boutique owners back home. It was a store called the Broadway. I get all my Versace, Moschino, just
I
all
know exactly what you're talking about.
Yes. Oh yeah, of course, from being from Detroit. So I stayed up in that store. I was friends with all the sales reps. I mean, they adored me. Even when I fundraised, they would cut me big checks. They'd be like, hey, give her 500, give her 1,000, give her whatever she needs. And I think through my relationships with other store owners, I found out about like the magic show and the big trade shows. Now the money, I impressed me. I had to give myself that pep talk literally the other day. I said, Arian, you are not afraid of raising $100,000 at 21. Don't you ever get caught up on however much money you need to do to venture off into one of your projects. Because for somehow you figured out a way to do that 15 years, or no, Lord, let me not age myself. 13 years ago, you figured out a way to do that and you didn't even flinch. I honestly didn't flinch. I asked one of my girlfriends, she gave me $7,000. We were partners in the store at first. I asked somebody else who was another college student, he gave me $17,000 from his parents' money. I can't remember. I, of course, came up with the most myself. I know I had a little whatever cash I had left. When I hit grad school time, I had student loans with net checks. So I gave some of my any type of cash I could grab my hands on. My mother didn't know about what I was planning until 6 months in, about a month or two before the opening. And when she found out, she asked what I needed. And I told her, I said, I need $30,000 right now. And she sent it. But I grabbed it from every angle I could think of. And I look back at it now like, Arian, you had no regard for it, no fear, no anything. I just went for it. So now, coming full circle, I've been sourcing fabrics and getting ready because I do want that part of me back. And I'm going to start it online, which I even started this year with my Be Fearless products, but I want my full-fledged, what I had before, my store. And I'm like, Arian, you were not scared to raise $100,000 as a 21-year-old. Really started when I was probably 20 because I opened at 21. So as a 20-year-old, I had no regard for, okay, this is a lump sum of cash. I honestly didn't. I started making six figures as a college student. So I had no, I don't know. I look back at it now and I have to tell myself, Lord, if you did that then, what are you going to do now? And I had to encourage myself when I was trying to figure out, okay, Arian, where's the cash coming for this collection you about to be? And I'm like, you did that with no job, Arian. You can do this.
Yeah, I mean, anything is possible. Funny the things that we did. And we can't imagine. But you gotta remind yourself. So I'm glad you've done it. You can do it again.
Mm-hmm.
So you had this school. You graduate from your grad school. You closed the store.
I did, because the store unfortunately failed. And I have no shame in saying it, because it was still a great learning experience. And what I learned from it, which is the reason why I'm creating my own products now, is that when you're a boutique owner, you do not have the profit margin, honestly, that you need to really succeed. You have to have several boutiques in order to like really, really make it. So say you buy an item, for $50 and you sell it for $100. When you're buying other people's things, and I had a name brand store, so everybody had a suggested retail price. So I can't buy it for $50 and sell it for $150. Because Polo, well, they weren't a branded store, but for example, when you see the Polo tag, in addition to like a Macy's tag, it has a suggested retail price on it. You can't go sell these name brand things for higher than the suggested retail price because they need to, for the integrity of their brand, it has to be the same at all stores. So with me buying brands, I didn't have the profit margin. They were giving me 50%. Well, by the time you pay for the employees, the time you pay for the lights, the rent, the utilities and all that, say if I were to have a sale one day and say whatever item is half off, I haven't made any cash off that item, and I had overhead that went into that item. So just imagine what a slow season can do. It can take you under. So I was constantly just playing catch up, and I'm like, I gotta figure this out, And then one day I was in Chicago, actually, where you reside, and I went to the Oprah Winfrey show and had an opportunity to meet her. And it's actually in the book. It is in the book. The story about this was in my last chapter, and it talks about full circle. And when I sat in her sound room, she said, the way you're doing this now, she said, this industry of retail, she said, it's just very hard. So through years of research, I was like, I got to get back into this, but I can't do this how I did it because there was no room to succeed financially in it. And I was like, I've got to figure this out so this doesn't take me under. And thank God I was introduced to people who are into manufacturing about 2009. One of my friends, my dear friends, Irv Taylor, and he was just like, let me teach you this game. And that's when I learned, oh, this is the process I can take now to create my own items. This is where I can source fabric. This is how I can get it made. I can now reproduce this at the leisure of me being able to have the profit margin to mark this up to where I can have a viable business. Because before it just wasn't working. And I kept trying to make it work. And I was like, Arian, when I did the research, it says only like for retail industry, the industry norm is 7%. So if that's the industry norm or average, doing that, you get what I'm saying? And honestly, I tell this to anybody who's trying to be an entrepreneur, you need to be passionate about what you plan on getting into. Do not go into entrepreneurship for the sake of you want to make money. Because honestly, at 7%, if you just want to make some cash, you could have put your money in the market and got 12% plus. You know, that was a waste of your time. I'm sorry. Unless it's something that you are called to do. And you're like, okay, this is why I'm here on this earth. I'm serving the greater good of people. God told me to do it. I don't discredit any of that. If God tells you to do something, then you do that. But if you got into it just for the sake of this is a revenue stream, I'm adding income, whatever, and it's only that, now don't get me wrong, what God calls you to do will bring you cash. But if you're going into it just for that reason, you need to really do your research. Because I say, if you want to just get some extra cash, you can put your money in the market and get more off that than depending on entrepreneurship, depending on what you get into.
True. So true. Turn your volume down just a little bit.
Oh God, I'm too loud.
No, it's not you. They're hearing me twice.
Oh no, okay.
Okay. It's gone.
How do you know that? Where are these comments at?
They're texting me.
Oh gosh. I'm sorry.
My mom just texted. Renee, we can hear you. Okay. It's a slight echo. If you have your earbuds close by, that might help. But otherwise, we'll just keep going because it's not too bad now, I don't think.
Okay, I turned the volume down because my volume was all the way up.
Okay. So that is amazing. And you're right. Everything's a learning lesson. You learned a lesson. You move on. So you closed the store, and what was your idea? What were you going to do? You know that you were going into public relations. What made you move from Florida to Hollywood?
No, I moved to California actually with a job. One of my vendors in the store was Apple Bottoms, and they'd offer me a product placement gig. And the company was owned by a group called Check Group at the time. So I left Tallahassee, Florida to go to LA with that. That's the job, of course, I got laid off from because the company got sold. But with that job in the area of marketing, I did not know what PR was to a full extent. I knew I had been featured in publications. I had been to Ebony and a lot of publications when I was even in college. And when I was even doing the product placement gig, even for those 30 days, I got like the product placed in different magazines and weeklies or whatever, but I never knew that was considered any form of PR. I didn't study PR in school. I had, I think, a chapter in a book on public relations in the area of marketing. So I didn't know too much about it, but I knew I had friends who were PR majors. So do you want me to get into this story now or?
Yeah, wait 1 second. So you go to California, you're supposed to work. So how long did you actually work for Apple Bottom?
30 days, literally. I got there January 17th. Or 16th. I worked March 1st through the 31st. I was back and forth to the office in January, February, just trying to figure out just the lay of the land, getting to know people, things of that sort. But yeah, I worked there for 30 days.
So they say, I'm sorry, you know.
Yeah, they called me to the office. By this time, I had celebrities galore rocking the clothes in a 30-day time frame. So I remember Lisa Ray came up to the office. I had Jessica Simpson wearing them. I had Tyra Banks in them. And mind you, this is only, like I say, in my first 30 days. So I'm wooing everybody. I am wooing everybody there. And when I got called into that office and they were like, unfortunately, we have some bad news. I'm like, bad news? Because I'm thinking if I'm getting called into, I was going to call for a promotion. Because I am the first in the door every day. And I was the last to leave. Like when I do something, I do it in the spirit of excellence. You would have thought that was my company as hard as I was working. And like I said, I had us featured in publications galore. So I was like, wait a minute. They were like, we need to have an unfortunate discussion. You are the last, hired. So this is the case. Basically, I was the first fired. And I was like, what do you mean let me go? Like I was still in the days like, this is not happening. And they were like, well, if this was based on performance, they said you'd be the only one staying. And I said, well, I appreciate the compliment, but you're not about to help me right now after I've relocated across the country. And who's going to pay these bills? Like, are you serious with me right now? And they said, it's unfortunate, whatever. But if there's an opportunity when it gets over to the next company, we can put in a good word to say how valuable you are. So yeah, they left me without a job. And I was just like, I was still like, I think in a daze. Even when I walked out of there, it took me a second to realize what the heck is really happening. So that's what happened.
So you're only there 30 days. Did you get unemployment?
Heck no. And I wouldn't qualify for unemployment, but two, because the way I had worked the deal out, I was even an independent contractor. I was a 1099. So I wouldn't have got it either way. But even in that short duration, had I even been a W-2, no, not for 30 days. So I was just like, at that time, I still probably wasn't panicking because I wasn't out my place just yet. But when I got that notice to, pay rent or quit, and the picture of the notice it's even in the book. I have that notice to quit or pay rent in my book. So I got that notice and I was just like, you have to figure this out. And I was like, I'm from Detroit, Michigan. And my mother had me borrow some money from one of her girlfriends' parents in a divorce case at the time. You couldn't touch their assets. And she was like, it's just not a good time for me financially. And I grew up, upper middle class. I didn't know about, what do you mean I can't call home for money? Like, what is this? You're the same mother that gave me 30 grand when I was like, I need cash for my store. What do you mean? So I was just like, oh gosh, so I was just out of it. But I was just like, okay, I called my mother's best friend. I said, Auntie Chris, I need like $400 to put this stuff in a storage. I have no cash. I got to get rid of the furniture. I said, but the rest of my belongings are going in my car. And I was living in the car at first, and I would sell my clothes. And not even just at first. I would sell the clothes constantly just to eat and put gas in the car. And then I met one of my girlfriends, Purcell, I met her on that job at Apple Bottoms. And I let her know, because eventually she got laid off too, the whole crew did. But I said, I'm out here in the streets. I moved in my car. And she was like, oh gosh, she said, I have a 2-bedroom apartment. She said, me and her boyfriend in one room. It was only 800 square feet, so it was extremely small. And a guy was in another room. So at this point, of course, it's like no bedrooms, not with my moral standards. So I'm like, she said, you can sleep on my floor in the living room. I was like, I don't care. I was like, I don't mind. So I actually was on her floor for about maybe a month and a half to 2 months, but we get put out because she runs, of course, out of cash too. Like I said, she's laid off. She said, we only got a short duration here. So whatever you do during this time, make it happen. And that's when I was like, oh gosh, now I'm back to the car. Cause I didn't, in that short duration, it didn't just happen for me yet that quick. So I was just like, oh gosh, what is this, Lord? And car broke down around that time. I'm even, I had checked into a shelter. I'm up here looking at different options. And I learned to dance in the rain through it all. I had some very bright days, some very fun days. And then I had some very dark days. And I know in one of those dark days, my mother was just so frustrating on the phone with me because she was just like, well, have you applied places and what are you doing? And I'm like, if you don't have no cash for me, I wasn't even in the mood for the conversation. Like, the daughter you raised with her work ethic, have I tried? Like, who are you to ask me if I tried? Like, that's how I felt in that moment. And I said, Mom, because I had applied for over 153 jobs. I stopped counting at 153, which is why I remember the number to this day. I was just like, if this is what life is like, I told her I didn't see the need to live. I was so exhausted. And I was just angry. Like, why was all this happening to me and all this happening to me at once? And at that time, I was just furious and I was mad that she started screaming and freaking out on the phone. You can't do this to me. You're all the way across the country. I was like, I'm not about to kill myself because I wasn't suicidal. But when I tell you in that moment, I was so exhausted. I was at a green light parked. I didn't care if it was me. Yes, a green light parked. I was just sitting there. It was on Moore Park in Vineland. I was just sitting there. I just did not care about anything in that moment. I was just out of it. And how I got into PR was somebody from that one job at Apple Bottoms, Billy, I think his last name is what's Billy's last name? I have to look it up. But he reached out to me and he said, hey, because he was the person who actually even recruited me out there in the first place. I'm pretty sure he even probably felt bad. I was like, they got me out here living on the street and this is not cool. But he said, my spouse needs some work for some PR and marketing work. And I was just like, PR? I said, I've never done it before. He's like, you'd be great at it. And I was just like, huh? And I did hear that a few times while I was at Apple Bottoms because I was doing some things that I even do today, but I didn't know it was PR. And so I said, well, at this point, after applying for over 150 something jobs, looking for temp agency jobs, looking for waitressing jobs, looking for anything. I was like, sure, I'll take whatever. You can call me to come clean your toilets out right now. I'll clean the toilets out. Shoot, I'll clean out the sewers. I was like, I just need to eat. And I hadn't eaten like 7 days. I had just bread and water. And I was just like, oh, thank God, just a breakthrough. And it was truly a testament of my faith. I kept calling people, asking them for cash. And God was just wanting me just to ask him. He's like, you ask me, I'll send the people. And they referred me to somebody who referred me to somebody who referred me to somebody. And I looked up and I had like 5 to 7 gigs in a matter of 2 weeks. And I remember having $9,000 and honey, I thought I was rich. And it's so funny that I thought I was rich, but it was so crazy because I say in college, I could raise $100,000 like it was nothing. But those $9,000, they meant the world to me. I thought I had made it. And when people saw me, I was telling them I am building an empire. They were like, this child is like on crack or something. And I was out of so many clothes by that time. I was out of so much of like material possessions. But when I tell you I had a heart of gold, you couldn't tell me anything. And I called people who were in PR and I got advice and people helped me. And even one of my line sisters, she came out with me to help me with the business about a year later. And I was just like, I thought in my mind, I thought I was building an empire. I was just like, this is it. And I was telling that to people. And I remember one of my sorority sisters, Indy Brown, she helped me get the office space. And I didn't even go live in an apartment at first. I just lived out the office. And the office was such a blessing because there was a hip hop station there, 100.3 The Beat, Kathy Hughes' Radio 1 station. And it's not in LA anymore, but it was the hot hip hop station. I wish they had it still because now LA radio, I'm always excited to touch back down in Atlanta either way. But
I like KJLH, FYI.
You said what?
KJLH.
Oh no, I do like that station. I do.
That's the only one. I'm like, turn it on as soon as I land.
I do miss 100.3 The Beat. I really do. They have what Power 105.9 there, but I do. I just still miss The Beat. And of course, I made friends with like all the radio jocks there. And Steve Harvey had his morning show there, and he had plenty of celebrities coming in out the door. And I was sneaking to the radio station every morning because security knew I was living there, and they tipped me off to who was coming in the building. I'd go down to LA Fitness, I'd shower, I'd get up, and I was ready to meet them with business cards and all. And security was passing up my cards. And I'll never forget when I met Nick Cannon for the first time. I said, I was telling about the business and everything. He said, oh, yeah, I heard you were dope. And I just laughed. I said, I've been doing this 3 weeks. He heard I was dope. I was like, oh, the security thing is like really working. Like when they're passing out my cards and the celebrities coming in talking about me, I'm like, these people are really buying it. I was like, we got to keep this up. So I was just like too thrilled. I was definitely too thrilled. So that's pretty much like how everything started for me.
Now, I remember as soon as you said the company, I remember the email address I was emailing was ARPR.
Yes, ARPR marketing, my baby. Yes. I went to use my my name when 2000, I think it was 9-ish. Moved back to Detroit for a little moment, and my dad was like, your name, you need to start branding your name. And that's honestly where that came from. And I was just like, okay. I'll brand my name. Like that's just where most of the discussion was. I was like, okay, I'll brand my name. And I have no regrets. And the reason why I was glad that I did it to this moment, like me just even reflecting, is because even today I was like creating a mood board and just figuring out what would be on the board. And so often you get placed in a box. I did PR more so, and still do it, you know, but I did it then out of a way of necessity and to eat. And don't get me wrong, I do believe that I'm placed with gifts. And the gifts that I've been given are in alignment with what I do in PR, but I just still think that there's so much more. And I don't like being placed in a box. I don't believe that people who are as multifaceted and multidimensional as myself, that I don't believe in putting periods where God has placed commas. I just don't. And I definitely, there's so many things to me. So even when I'm looking at like the collection, and I look at like the Kate Spade play on Instagram and Michael Kors and just different things of brands that I may follow, and I'm like, this is maybe just one aspect of me. And then I'll look at other stuff and I'm like, that's just another aspect of me. So who I am and what I see me as and see me even into growing, I just haven't seen before. And I have to take myself, or not take myself, I have to give myself peace and knowing, Arian, it's okay if who you are and if your totality, if it hasn't been done before. And just know that it's okay for you just to leave your own trail. So if you don't have anything to mirror at or anything, just live life on your terms and you set that standard or whatever that is. So when I made that transition, and it was just definitely a sense of freedom for me to be where, okay, I don't have to just be this publicist all the time, to where I even noticed like my wardrobe became the quintessential publicist wardrobe, the blazer, the blouse, and the jeans. And I was just like, this is not fully me. The me that grew up in high school, honey, she would wear a cat suit draped in Chanel jewelry. So not that I would necessarily even do that today. But when I look back at like my all Moschino outfits and my tight clothes and stuff, I'm like, where is that girl at? I was like, where did she go? And not that she would be that same person today, she would evolve. I said, but there's still a little bit of her in me that just during that duration of 2004 to, I would say, to 2009, never got explored. You know, the me in that era was a little bit more even conservative, not in behavior, but even just in style. And I'm like, nah, there's more layers to me. And I'm just now at that place of getting back to all of those things.
And it's so funny, I'm sure you didn't even see it, but I did a Periscope this afternoon, and I talked about how I don't want anyone to place periods where God has placed commas.
You said that?
I literally said that. Anybody that watched that knows that I said that today.
And they can go on to see your viewers and they can see that I didn't even view that. But when things are just in alignment, these moments happen. These moments definitely happen when it's just like by divine order. These moments do happen. Yeah, I didn't even know you said that, but I don't like that. I don't like being placed in a box. I don't know. There's a side of me that's
person I heard first say it was TD Jakes, because and I talked about.
I probably heard Bishop Jakes say it.
Yeah, how everyone's like, Bishop, why is he making movies? But he's made great movies.
And I've worked on his films, and I watch service even today. Even when I'll go to church, and I still cut on the Potter's House. And I'm looking at a picture of Bishop Jakes right there. Like I'm over looking at my vision board on the side, and there goes Bishop Jakes looking at me. New year, new you. It was, I think, an Essence article, and I'm in awe and enamored with his teaching. I just am. And when I've worked with him on set, when I tell you I'm like a kid in a candy store, I sit underneath him and I'm always taking notes. And when we were in Detroit filming Sparkle, Bishop Edgar Van came on set, and he says, because he's known me since I was a baby, so he says to Bishop Jakes, he said, "Do you know my baby?" He looked at him like, "Do I?" Like, I know he's thinking like, this girl is always sitting underneath me, writing things down. So I definitely probably heard Bishop Jakes say that. I've heard him say so much, and I'm always writing down so much of his teachings and everything that he says. But I don't even like that feeling. I don't even like that close in feeling. And some people aren't as multifaceted, and that's fine. Right. That's the area that they're supposed to be in and the way they're supposed to be. But there was something about that period that was so great. Don't get me wrong. Those years were very good to me. I mean, I toured the world. I was Chris Brown's tour publicist, Lil Wayne's personal publicist. I was doing movies galore, and still do, music industry things, and still do work on the movies as well too, even to this day. That time period was just so very heavily high impact, because that was the only thing I was doing. And like I said, I go after everything 100%. So I was going after it so hard, and it was just definitely got to the point where it was consuming me. And especially on the music side, I just crashed. I mean, I had a roster full of superstars, and I just crashed. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm about to just scream. And I was like, I've got to figure out a way to build. Now I'm at a place where I need to start thinking about, what is this lifestyle that you want to live? How is it? What is it that you desire to do day to day? What from the store did you just leave behind that's still a piece of you? So there was just more like that whole self-discovery period for me in 2009. And like I said, now I'm just at a place where I saw a young lady, and she's not in this country, and I identified with her so much. And I was just like, I get her. Or she's like this radio DJ. She's a host and an MC at different events. She has her own fashion line. She has so many like different things going on. And I was like, I actually get that girl. I was like, because I can relate to her. I get her. Whereas somebody else would have just probably put her in a box and said, no, she's this one thing. And that's just where I'm at now. I'm glad my father encouraged me just to brand my name, so I wouldn't have to be limited just to the PR company.
Anybody that has a question, you can type them in at YouTube. My sister will pick them up and send them over to me. If you're in Google Plus, then you see the little button that says Q&A. You can click that and type them in. But
okay, because we have talked too long. I'm just now looking at the time. It says 9:48.
It's okay. You're fine, because no questions have come up yet, so you're okay. So,
okay, because I'm like, oh my gosh.
But if there's someone that's struggling and feeling very discouraged right now with what's going on in their lives, what would you tell them, seeing that you've had all this struggle? And
I wouldn't say I've had all this struggle, because I'm like, oh God, I can't even claim that. And God knows what we can handle. God definitely knows what we can handle, because Lord have mercy. Any more would have had me just out of here. And with saying that God knows what you can handle, he's not going to put more on you than what you can endure. And the tips I can give anybody to just handling those different situations, And I said this when I was announcing my book. I said, you can lose your house. You can lose your job. You can lose your possessions. I said, but you can't afford to lose your mind. And that is because the battle of everything it's just a mental thing. I don't know what possessed me, like I said, at 21, where it was a no-brainer to go get $100,000. I was like, but because mentally there were no roadblocks, it became my reality. So I always, at this stage where someone's older and they've seen more of life, to where it's like, okay, you've experienced more, you've seen disappointment, I would even say as well too. I'm still an avid believer in what you visualize, you materialize. So like I said, when I was pointing over there, that is my vision board. I'm looking at it. Like I said earlier today, I was like, okay, well, let's create a mood board. And Arian, what is this? What does this look like for you? What does this feel like for you? What are these things that you just desire at this stage of life, in this moment, that you know you want to have? So I definitely would encourage, like I say, the vision boards. I didn't have a vision board, when I was without a home. I was riding around in my car looking at the Beverly Hills mansion saying, I can do this. I can own this big home. I can live this successful life. I can have this dream that I'm seeing these people living. So that was like my constant reminder. I'm definitely a woman of faith. I definitely never let my faith go. And there's even a scripture, and I don't know I can't think of where it is in the Bible, but it talks about just not letting your faith fail. Like there's things in life that can fail, but just not letting your faith fail. And it just spoke to me. I said, that is just so true. Because through all what I've been through, I never stopped believing. Even in my anger with God, I was still angry at God, meaning that there was an acknowledgement that, no, you're there. You may need to do something right now on my behalf. And I'm your child, and I know this, but there's still the acknowledgement that my faith has never departed. I've never let my faith depart me. And it's truly a time, if you're in that moment, I know this will sound so crazy, but I honestly say enjoy it and embrace it. And what I mean by that, because it's truly a moment of self-discovery. And I don't encourage anybody just to put themselves through anything, but it's truly a moment of self-discovery that you will never have again. And we don't want you to ever have again.
Right.
But in that moment, you're going to see really how great you are and how great your God is and what talents you currently have. Because when I tell you that he supplies all our need according to our riches and glory through Christ Jesus, all your needs will be met. And what I mean by that is some people will grow up with like, in a single parent home. I'm like, well, if he didn't supply it, you ain't need it. He's fully equipped you. It's okay. But take inventory of what you have currently. And so often we'll get caught up in the circumstance and the situation, and we don't take time out to really assess the assets. And what I mean by that is it's like when you go to the grocery store, and this happens so often with me, I come home 80% of the time with something I probably didn't have to get. I'm like, oh my gosh, I had this already. Oh my gosh, well, I really didn't even need this seasoning. This is here. And I'm like, oh gosh, Arian, how did you do this again? And I'm like, you're going to have to stop and take inventory, Arian. I said, because it happens in life. Some things that we even go out and pay for, we already had in our possession. And it's so important that you take inventory of resources, be it relationships, material things, just everything. Because when you really sit back and assess, you have so much. Even when I had my vehicle, had the furniture somewhere in the storage, I honestly forgot on because I had the vehicle, the clothes I was selling, I still had all I needed in that moment to get to where it was that God needed me to get to. So you will always have definitely your needs met. And don't be afraid to ask for help in the event you just need help. I wasn't afraid of asking for help. God just wanted me to more so, like I said, it was a testament of my faith to ask him. Because I was asking everybody. Some folks were like, oh, I don't believe you. I said, no, I'm not lying. You need to please send me some cash. So some people, because they were so used to me being so together and so well off, where I was like, no, for real, I'm out here in LA. It costs like $4,000 if you just want to get an apartment moving into this place. I'm not lying to you. I need some help. So I will definitely say, take inventory of what you have. Enjoy the process. Don't try to shortcut the character development that God is doing in you, because he's always preparing you for your blessings. And don't beat yourself up. Don't beat yourself up. I'm a very big high critic of myself, and I tell myself that a lot. Arian, don't beat yourself up. You're fine. Everything's okay. Everything's in due season. But don't be hard on yourself. Learn in this moment to just experience, self-love. Take inventory of just all the wonderful gifts that you have. And know that whatever this is that you desire, it can happen, and that you definitely just can do it. And and this is just really quickly, I tell people always to stay in the ring. And I haven't read this, but some email while we were talking, it came up with this lady. She's like, I read your article on Essence, because they had, did a post on the release date of my book. And she was saying about staying in the ring. And I tell people that. I was telling my girlfriend Cheryl one day, I said, you know what, I always win. And she said, what makes you say that? I said, because I stay in the ring. I said, you do too. She's a fighter too. I said, because no matter what the punch is, no matter what the opponent is, no matter anything, I was like, if I fall down, I just get back up. I was like, I just stay in the ring. And though I've had my share of bloody noses and bruises or whatever, I was like, I can only get the belt if I stay in the ring. I was like, so I just stay in the ring.
Very true, very true. So please tell us, first of all, did you always plan to write a book, or that was something that you said, I got to tell people?
My dad is an author, and it never occurred to me even growing up. When he was writing books, I could care less about writing a book. I had no desire to write a book. And to be quite honest with you, I had no desire to write this book. To be quite honest, I did. When people would hear my story, everybody's reaction was, you have to write a book, you have to write a book, you have to write a book. And I do journal a lot or whatever, but I journal not for the world. I journal for me. So I was like, I have to write a book. I have to write a book. What is this? So I started writing it around 2008, 2009-ish, and I never finished it. I never finished it. So I had to go back, and through times I would add a little bit, and I'd go back again and I'd add a little bit, and I'd go back again and I'd add a little bit. And then I even had a talk with my friend. He's an author, Anatole Barriola. He's written Burlesque and Gentlewoman. And he was just like, you really got to get your story out. And so I was just like, let me just sit down and finish and do this. And honestly, I was even a little nervous, because I'm like, well, I said it was only about 100 and something pages, like 120 pages or whatever in this book. And everybody was like, that's enough. That's enough. And I was just like, that's enough. And I was like, okay, so really this is, one of those things where it's my gift to the world type thing, because I was just like, Lord, I'm doing this only because you want me to do this, which is fine, which is my main reason why I need to be doing anything. I said, but I was like, I didn't know. And I was very transparent in it. One of my girlfriends, her post the other day, she said, so often people give you their highlight reel. She said, but this girl's going to give you basically her reel, So my dating life is in it, but everything is in it. My celibacy journey is in it. When I fall off the wagon was in it. Or I can't say fall off. I need to say fell off, because I am committed to this goal. But I talk about that even in like YouTube videos and whatnot. I said, if I were to stop and to have sex, it wouldn't be out of fear. So often I hear women, they don't take it, or they're scared to embark upon that because they fear that the guy will leave. I'm like, please. A man, when they want something, I said they go through all types of measures to get what it is they want. Do you watch Power?
I don't.
Oh, shoot. You got to see it. Either way, the main character goes, for him to get what it is he even desires out of life. I mean, he does all types of devilish things. Men will kill, steal, and destroy for when their mind is set on something. So in it, I tell women, just pretty much don't get caught up in the fear of the unknown. And don't get caught up in the fact that you would think somebody would just leave you for sex. Men can get sex off the street corner. Though I do need to get married and have me some good sex, but they can get sex off the street corner. But in that, I definitely, like I said, I'm very transparent in the book. So I enjoyed it. I hope others enjoy it as well. But it's truly my story. And I put like my lessons like towards the end, like my nuggets of the different lessons that I've learned along the journey or whatever. But yeah, it's my fabulous and fearless journey from homeless to Hollywood. How did my light go out at that moment? This is the book. It's on sale. You can get it at ariansimone.com. You can get it at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, and other. I haven't even looked up all the online retail outlets that it's available at. But I'm proud of it. I'm glad to get the story out there. And huh?
You self-published?
Yes, I did self-publish. I did self-publish, but I did go through a company self-publishes. That's why I said there's other online outlets. Like they sent me like a list of all the different links where I could find the book. But of course, I was just like, oh, okay, great. So it's on multiple online outlets. So probably if you Google search it, you'll find it in more places. But
I'll put it in my Amazon store. I have a whole
signed copy.
I have a whole section in my store, my Amazon store, that has all my guests that have been on the show and has all their books, CDs, whatever they have. So
that is beautiful. That is beautiful. So yeah, I didn't plan on being this author. I'm looking at her like I didn't plan on that. But I don't mind. It is what it is. I'm proud of it, and I'm proud of her. I am. I'm proud of her for sharing her story.
My sister just said, I love the transparency in this conversation, and I can't wait to read it.
Oh, thank you, sis. That is so sweet. I definitely appreciate it. On my website, the only reason why I encourage people to go to mine, well, for multiple reasons. Of course, you're going to make more money off the ones on your website. That's just is what it is. It's not another distributor. But I offer people the opportunity to buy a signed one where I personalize it to them on my website. I don't know how long I'm going to do that because I'm about to be signing books like crazy all next week. So I'm not sure how long I will offer that on my website, but currently that is an option because it's so much easier for me just to let Amazon or Barnes & Noble or any of the major retailers just fulfill my book, and you can just catch me at a book sign and I can sign it there. Versus me having to take the time out, be in town when the shipment comes, sign all the books and package them, ship them off myself. I was like, Aaron, I don't know how long I'm going to keep this up. So most definitely, you do have an opportunity to get an already signed copy if you go on my website. But yeah,
so I don't know how long that's going to be.
Yes, my tour starts next week. I hit the road and I'm going to Nashville, Tennessee. I've been hired to speak at the freshman class of Tennessee State University's freshman class orientation in their gym. And afterwards, I am definitely holding a book signing. So I start on August 20th in Nashville. I do a press run in New York on the 24th, right after. I told you I hit the road. I have dates. Even in September, I'm in Baltimore on September 23rd. I think, the 23rd. I'm in DC on the 30th. I'm at Dartmouth on the 28th. So I'm definitely doing a book tour, and I have more dates even coming. Some of them I can't say where I'm even at yet because they gave me contractual reasons of when I can announce where I'm at and what I'm doing. But yes, I will be on the road.
Wonderful, wonderful. Can you please tell us anything else you're working on right now so that we can make sure we support you?
Whew. That's an understatement. We can talk about the book just for right now. At this, it's so much. As I say, I still do PR, so I still have my clients, their projects, and I have even so much, like I say, of my own that's going on. So just stay tuned. Follow me on Instagram and Twitter and social media. I'm at Arian Simone. So I'm Arian Simone on all my social media handles. Tune into the website, ariansimone.com, because there are a lot of things coming. There's Yeah, especially even the holidays. There's something, well, not, I wouldn't say holidays, probably Starting September-ish. So you'll see a lot of big things that I have to offer. But yes, it's a lot going on.
That's wonderful. Thank you so much. This has been very, I just got another text that has been very inspirational. Thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Sam is one of the, she's our program director here at one of the stations. So.
Oh, thank you so much. I keep looking down. I'm like, I hope my hair isn't taking up the whole screen.
So crazy. Everybody, she's a natural woman too, and I'm sure it was a little warm.
Yes, I'm natural. And I didn't flat iron my hair. So that's why I was like, is my hair taking up the screen?
Thank you so much, everyone. Same time, same place next week. Not quite sure who the guest is yet, but I'm sure we will know very soon, and we will make that announcement. If you have been motivated or inspired by anything that's happened tonight, please feel free to email me, tweet me, whatever. You can leave a comment in the box below the video on YouTube. But definitely follow Arian Simone on all social media. Of course, you can reach me at Renee on all social media. And we will see you next week. Same time, same place.